Hello and welcome to this final webinar for the EU-MERCI project, January 2018. The EU-MERCI project, EU-MERCI stands for EU Coordinated Methods and Procedures Based on Real Cases for the Effective Implementation of Policies and Measures Supporting Energy Efficiency in Industry. Bit of a mouthful, but basically what its project to do is to support the identification, dissemination and encouragement of more energy efficiency measures to be implemented across industries in the EU. And this project has been funded for the last 2 years by the European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Programme. The project has run from February 2016 through to January 2018. The key aims of the EU-MERCI project were to identify best practice energy efficiency measures, and in particular implemented measures from what we call enabler countries, where we have a significant database and evidence pack of opportunities that have been implemented across key energy efficiency key industrial sectors, and drawing on those demonstrated and implemented measures, develop a set of support tools, information to be disseminated and to drive further energy efficiency and implementation levels across industry, across key industrial sectors in the EU. And the project has aimed to answer a number of questions as listed here on this slide. What are the most effective actions that can be implemented within key industrial sectors to improve the efficiency, and how can those measures be implemented, those technologies be implemented, and what are some of the more promising technologies coming through in those key sectors to move energy efficiency performance forwards. Some understanding of the scale of energy saving and the efficiency measures that can be achieved, and obviously evidence of that, that can then help organizations that are looking at moving forwards and improving their energy performance to consider how those measures can improve their performance and what the associated business case looks like, as well as an understanding of how best to measure, monitor and report the savings that are being delivered out of those projects. So that was the overall ambition of the EU-MERCI European-wide project. If we look at the key partners and the key deliverers in the project, we have three key groups of participants. We have the enablers, and these are countries and entities within those countries that have a good data set of implemented energy efficiency measures across industry. And the key enabler countries as part of this project include RSE in Italy, Carbon Trust in the UK, the Austrian Energy Agency in Austria, clearly, and CAPA in Poland. All of these organizations brought to the table and brought to the project significant data sets of implemented and proven energy efficiency measures in industry. In addition to the enablers, we have what the project refers to as follower countries and follower organizations, and these are countries that have a good reputation and stakeholder reach within those countries, within the countries, to support the dissemination and learnings from the project, but also engage with industries within those countries to understand what are some of the challenges and share some of the learnings that the project develops. And these countries represented by, in Romania, ANERO, in Bulgaria, BSERC, B-S-E-R-C, in Greece, CRES, and in Slovenia, apologies, APE. Finally, we have two organizations that have been in particular focused on stakeholder engagement and community dissemination. These two organisations include are GIN and SPES from Italy. And in particular, SPES have brought to the project and engaged with a number of federations across a wide range of other European countries, as you can see from this chart here, covering Portugal, Spain, France, etc. And this has really helped the project to really reach a much greater audience and maximise the scale of impact that the project can have during its 2 years, and obviously beyond the formal end of the project, where the tools and the outputs from the project can be further used in industry. So in terms of the key goals of the EU-MERCI project, this chart demonstrates some of the outputs that we were looking for. So the key was to develop a repository of best practice from industry, proven examples of opportunities that have been implemented, captured and structured around each of the key industrial processes and industrial sectors that the project was looking at. Secondly, importance of this dissemination, knowledge sharing and transfer of knowledge. So the project has seen a lot of communications, a lot of participation and engagement with a wide range of stakeholders across all of the target countries and markets and sectors that were part of the project. And thirdly, the project has looked at supporting actions both in industry and industrial stakeholders, as well as looking at some of the policy measures that have been successful or are being developed in different markets across the EU, and supporting that angle towards greater enablement of energy efficiency within industry. So that's hopefully a good summary of the nature of the project, the key participants and the key objectives of the project. We'll now go on to look at the outputs of the project and how those outputs have been developed, but also what's available in terms of support that the project can provide beyond the formal end of the project to participants, stakeholders across the EU.
One of the key outputs of the EU-MERCI project, which the next section of the webinar will focus on, is the European Industrial Energy Efficiency Good Practices platform. This is a platform that's dedicated towards energy efficiency good practices across a number of key industrial sectors. These include the chemical sector, coke and petroleum, non-ferrous metals, food and beverage, iron and steel, pulp and paper, cement, ceramics, copper, glass, and machinery. The platform contains 3 different sections: a database which contains a complete list of energy efficiency implementations across these sectors, a library containing more detail on specific sectors and identified good practice energy efficiency implementations, and finally a section which contains the result of a survey carried out by the EU-MERCI project. The aim of the survey was to assess the level of awareness of the potential for energy efficiency in EU industry and to learn about some of the challenges and barriers, both technical and non-technical, to fulfilling this potential. We will now explore these sections of the platform in more detail and explore how they can be accessed via the portal. The platform itself can be accessed both via the EU-MERCI website or directly via eumerci-portal.eu. Before we explore the platform, let's start by looking at the content of the database in a bit more detail. The database consists of real implementations of energy efficiency measures coming from 4 different countries: the UK, Austria, Poland, and Italy. These different datasets have been provided by the 4 enabler organizations listed here: the Carbon Trust for the UK, the Austrian Energy Agency, CARPIV for Poland, and RSE for Italy. The datasets from these 4 countries all came in different formats, as they had been created for different purposes. The challenge of the EU-MERCI project was to harmonize these datasets in a way that would still allow for statistical analysis to be performed. Thus, a common taxonomy was created to allow the measures from different datasets to be classified in the same way. In addition, the information needed to be standardized, currencies units had to be converted, and measure descriptions translated. Finally, the EU-MERCI dataset was reduced in size to focus only on energy efficiency measures that were actually implemented and measures that relate to industrial processes rather than building-related measures. The result of this extensive harmonization effort is the EU-MERCI database. Let's go and see what this database looks like. Before we dive into the database, this is the homepage of the platform, and as you can see, it is very easy to navigate. The three main sections, the database, the library, and survey section, can be accessed via the top bar. Let's start by visiting the database. You can either choose to freely navigate through all records in the database, or you can run a specific query. If you choose to freely navigate, you can also sort by the fields in the top row. For example, if I type in 2012 in the top row, only the records are shown that were implemented in 2012. The other fields for which you can filter include the company size, the specific reference scheme, country of origin, whether a measure is considered a good practice, its taxonomy classification, and its NACE code. These database fields are also available for download either as a PDF or as an Excel spreadsheet. Also, if you want to find out more about a specific field represented in the database, you can click on it twice and you can find more information about each record, such as complete taxonomy description and key KPIs. Also, if you want to find out more about the specific fields represented in the database, you can click on Database, and on the right-hand side you can find a section which contains definitions for the different fields, the taxonomy, as well as an explanation of the KPIs. If you would like to search for specific records, you can do this by running a query via the Select drop-down. Here you can specify individual characteristics of the record or records you would like to identify. For example, you could search for all records in 2012 that were implemented in Italy and are considered a good practice. When you click Submit, a list of these records will appear, which you can also download as a PDF. But what does it actually mean if a measure is a good practice? The EU-MERCI project distinguishes between best and good practices. Best practices are those techniques or methodologies that, through experience and research, have proven to reliably lead to a desired result in a sustainable way. Under the EU-MERCI definition, best practices are those practices found in the literature, while good practices have been identified from the EU-MERCI database, so that they relate to actual implementations of energy efficiency measures. These good practices have been identified by a mix of quantitative and qualitative analyses. First, all records in the database were assessed against a set of key KPIs. These KPIs were selected from a long list of KPIs as they are both considered to be a representative measure of a good practice, and they were also available for most records in the database. The list includes a mix of technical, environmental, and economic indicators. In order to compare these KPIs against each other, each of these KPIs was then normalized so that each record received between 0 to 10 points, depending on how well the measure performed compared to the other measures in the sector for this KPI. Combining the different scores for each KPI, each record was then given a total score, and those practices with the best score were pre-selected. This combination of the KPI analysis with a statistical analysis of the measures concludes the quantitative analysis. The pre-selected good practices were then evaluated and qualitatively assessed in more detail by the EU-MERCI partners and discussed amongst the group. The result of this analysis was a final list of good practice measures, which are explored in more detail in the library section of the platform. Let's go have a look. The library contains a number of different resources. First, it contains process schematics for the sectors included in the database. Here you can find more detailed information about both the best practices identified in the literature as well as the good practices categorized by the different processes in each sector. The good practices are all practices with the EU-MERCI logo next to the description. By clicking on one of the good practices, you can access a PDF which contains the general description of the good practice, process diagrams, details on the technology, as well as key performance indicators, cost indications, whether it was implemented with the help of a specific scheme or subsidy, and how often it occurs within the dataset. You can also find a list of cross-cutting technologies for each sector. This list includes measures that are relevant for the sector but can also be widely applied across other sectors. The next section of the library contains detailed technical analysis of the main processes in the selected sectors, with information on the energy consumption of the different phases. You can download this information for each sector in PDF form. The library also contains a section with country analysis reports. These reports contain a collection of statistical data on industry in different EU countries, as well as the main economic results of the sector included in the EU-MERCI database. You can access this analysis by clicking on a specific country on the map. The last section of the library contains the sectoral fact sheets. These are 1 to 2 page documents highlighting the top good practices, recommendations, and policies for each sector. Again, you can download these in PDF format. This completes the library section of the platform. The final section of the platform that we will look at is the survey section. The survey was designed by the EU-MERCI project to identify the level of awareness as well as the key barriers and challenges for industry, sector associations, and ESCOs around energy efficiency implementations. You can view the graphic results for each of these stakeholder groups separately and download the full results as an Excel spreadsheet. This concludes the tour of the platform. If you have any questions or would like to provide feedback, please feel free to contact the EU-MERCI partners
via info@eumerci.eu,
or for information about the EU-MERCI project, you can also visit the project website at
www.eumerci.eu.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you find the information that we've provided you throughout the webinar useful, as well as the platform of the EU-MERCI project.